Podcast. We're live. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. The Secret Podcast. Yeah. This is Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. We come to you live wherever. Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook at fb.com/emilguillermo.media, YouTube at Emil Amok 1. That's at Emil Amok 1 on YouTube. You can go get back episodes and see it live there. Also, we're on amok.com sometimes. Anyway, it's Halloween coming up. And a little later on, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be dressed up as for Halloween. I'm coming back. I'm bringing back Larry Itliong. I'm going to be Larry. I've got my Rancho jean jacket on. I'm getting my 7 fingers out. I won't have a cigar since I hate cigars. He was a cigar guy, but I'll have my Crayola pens, like a cigar, and I'll be doing my Larry. For all those who don't give me a vegan treat, I'll have to trick them by being Larry Itliong. That's if you're lucky enough for me to knock on your door on Halloween, wherever in Northern California. Anyway, so that's coming up. Today, I want to talk about a couple of things before I bring up my special guest. You know, he's not really a special guest on Friday. Daniel Phil Gonzales, San Francisco State University Professor Emeritus, College of Ethnic Studies. I like to bring him in on Friday so we can talk about the stuff that happened during the week, and a lot happened during the week. But before we do, I just want to mention how there's this massive manhunt in Maine going on. And as I mentioned yesterday, I love Maine. I mean, it's a great vacation place, right? I've been to Bar Harbor. I've been to Acadia National Park. Great national park. Lewiston, where the shooting was, is near Bowdoin College. Bowdoin. Bowdoin. Not Bowdoin. Bowdoin, Emil. Bowdoin, yeah. Bowdoin College, where their big pitch is, we're not Harvard, but you'll see the sunset first over North America right here. Bowdoin College. Also, home of Bates College, where I guess they get this all the time. Norman is not an alum of Bates College. I don't think so. So, but anyway, I was just looking at the press conferences the last couple of days, and there are all these white people there. And it just made me wonder, because I've been through Maine, and actually the people I know in Maine, there's one Asian American woman who I'm still kind of in touch with. I don't think she still lives up there, but she ran a Cambodian restaurant on the road to Bangor. And, you know, we were Facebook friends for a long time. And it never struck me how white Maine is until today when I was watching the press conference. And so I did a little research. And did you know? All right, so Maine is more white and segregated now than it ever was. It's like if you go back, if you go to Maine, it's like going back in time, right? To an American demographic scene that is typical of the 1930s. How's that for you? I mean, in the 1930s, Maine was 88.7% white. Today, it's more than that. It's 92.9% white. In 1930, it was 9.7% black. And now it's 1.44% black. It's less African American today than it was in 1930. Can you believe that? In 1930, it was 1.2%. Now, what is that? I can't read my writing here, but it must be Well, anyway, you between 88.7% white and 9.7% black, that's pretty much everything. That's what it was in 1930. Today, it's 92.9% white, 1.44% black, 0.56% American Indian, 1.1% Asian, and then Native Hawaiian 0.02%, other 0.5%. And this is the new thing. This is an indication that Maine is in the 21st century. 3.46% is two or more races. So intermarriage taking place in Maine, that's a sign of progress. In Maine, 92.9% white. Boy, but compare that with 1930 when it was only 88.7% white. And even in 1930, get this, it was 88.7% white, 9.7% black, 1.2%. I think that's Hispanic. I think, or maybe that's Mexican. Maybe that was the designation in 1930. It was 0.3% Indian, 0.1% Chinese, 0.1% Japanese. It doesn't even measure a percentage for Filipinos, but there were 45,000 Filipinos in Maine in 1930. 3,000 Hindus, 1,800 Korean. So there were enough people in Maine so that 45,000 was nothing. Doesn't even register. I thought that was interesting. 88.7% white in 1930, 92.9% white in 2020, or based on the 2020 census. Or actually, this number comes from another demographer who was basing it on 2023 numbers, so probably including the American Census, American Family Survey, what they call it. Anyway, I just thought that's interesting when you consider Maine. Now, let's bring up my friend, Daniel Phil Gonzales, to talk about the news, talk about other things, talk about Maine. I know that Dan is fascinated with guns, so he'll have some. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Yeah.
Well, it's not that
And
you're fascinated with
you
guns.
know,
It's
I'm like I'm fascinated with the technology of guns, and I'm also fascinated with the politics.
yeah. Well, oh, there he goes. There he goes. He has a funny funny internet. And okay, there he is. Okay, so
Speed is
so,
breaking up.
so
Your
there you are
speed
with
is
your funny
breaking up.
internet.
Yeah, now you're going to make me really small again.
I
I feel Lilliputian now.
no, you have the proper. This has nothing to do with your manhood. Nothing. Nothing. So Dan, tell me when you heard. I was interested how the slow trickle of information and how it went from 22 dead to like 7 dead, 8 dead, and then now it's a normal 18. Well, normal.
Normal. What the hell are you talking about?
Yeah, I know. I mean, now it's like more. I guess 18 would seem more reasonable than 22, but the first hours, the reports were 22 dead.
Well,
What do you?
not only that, they said when they said it was 15 dead.
Hmm.
Okay, they said 50 to 60 wounded,
Oh yeah, yeah,
and that I thought for the amount of time that this guy spent in the two different places, it must have been packed,
yeah,
cheek to cheek in one or more of those two locations, because 50 to 60, it's potentially possible, right?
yeah,
All
yeah,
you have to do is look at, Vegas was out of hand, right? Because there's several, 10 more than 10,000 people in one place, but Orlando, Florida would be the other.
oh yeah.
You're talking about an indoor venue.
The Pulse
Yeah,
night.
the Pulse,
Yeah,
which
it's so sad that I was recounting this when the story first broke. I thought, oh my God, it's a theater, a school, a nightclub, uh, a workplace, a this has happened everywhere, and now you got a bowling alley and Schmengies, I guess they call it Schmengies bar. People, a cornholer place. So it's just sad that this is a modern America, and every time it happens, you think, oh, now people are going to be, they're going to be riled up. They'll be upset. Like we thought it would after a school was was victimized. The first school, and then the second school, and the third school, and the fourth school, and now schools don't even register anymore as a, we become inured to all that. So what's your feeling about this now? And now the key here is that they haven't found the gunman. He might have escaped. And,
Or he might be deceased.
yeah. So what do you think is going to happen after this? Same old, same old.
Well, if he's a man of his word, the Democratic junior congressperson from Maine has stated publicly that he's switching from uh, opposing the banning of ARs and similar guns, AR-15s and similar
Yeah.
guns, and that he is for supporting now AR-15s and similar guns. And I've said this privately and publicly. That's what it takes for people to change their minds.
Yeah.
To somebody in their immediate vicinity or someone in their immediate family has to get dead or seriously wounded so that people pay attention to this issue. And
Yeah.
and that's really one of the worst ways that we can see American society, the overall condition of American society, is that there's a heavy emphasis on individualism and individual interests and a lack of a sense of community and collectivism with
Well,
regard to these kinds of circumstances.
yeah. It's why do we have to wait for this sort of thing in order to make good policy? This shouldn't be.
Because one side says prayer is enough.
Oh, prayer, right? Prayer or a
And,
good
and he
man.
did it again. The new Speaker of the House did it again.
Yeah, prayer. Oh, good guy with a gun, right?
Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, good guy with a gun and a lot of prayers. I mean,
What
it's
percentage of the time, I forgot what the statistics are now, but what percentage of the time when somebody either threatens or carries out a mass shooting, was that person defeated because there was another person present who used effectively their gun? You know, how effective was that one individual or more, right?
yeah,
Who was in possession of a weapon at the time in extinguishing the threat? That's what
well,
we come down to.
yeah. Well, the problem is the guys who are perpetrating the mass killings are the people with the guns, and
For
the
the
ones
most part, yeah.
the good guys with the guns are probably their friends, especially in the small community. And you're not going to get, I mean, this is the thing. This guy was, this guy Robert Card was from all accounts pretty well known. He
Yeah,
was,
real small town. I mean,
yeah,
just over 30,000, right? Or
yeah.
under 40,000 anyway.
Yeah, look, but I know towns that small. I've lived in towns that small, and you don't know everybody, but it is, and Lewiston. Remember, I mean, uh, they mentioned. I saw a news report where they mentioned it, but you recall that Cassius Clay fought Sonny Liston in Lewiston, Maine,
Oh, wow.
and that was
Which fight was that?
that.
Which
That
one
was
is
when the first one
I think that
where he was still Cassius Clay, where he was just scowling at Sonny Liston when he knocked him down, and that was in Lewiston. I remember that because I remember
wow.
hearing the fight on, I think it was on radio, and that's the only time I knew of Lewiston, Maine. Really, I mean, really in a big way. I
Do you
visited.
remember what year that was?
I think it was like 63, maybe
That's
60.
what I thought. Because I kind of remember being in first or second year high school.
Yeah, it was. I just remember the picture of
It was after
Ali.
that he changed his name
Yeah, Muhammad Ali. Yeah,
to Muhammad Ali, and then he had done a tour of some of the cities as Cassius Clay, and I remember him appearing in San Francisco at the local boys club. in the
Yeah.
hate.
Oh yeah. Well,
Hate.
this was his first big fight,
Yeah, yeah.
when you listen fight. And so that was Lewiston. Lewiston also home of Bowdoin College. I think Bowdoin's nearby, and the guy lives in Bowdoin. And then there's Colby College, or excuse me, Bates College,
Bates, yeah, it's right
which
nearby.
is not a bad school.
And
Uh,
as you said, it's not no relation to Norman.
no relation to Norm.
Yeah.
So
Although there may have been a shower curtain involved, But
maybe,
anyway, yeah,
they Norman would have used a knife. He
yeah.
would have used a knife. Hey, so what do you think? Uh, I hope there's some movement. I don't think I'm not. I
So
don't have.
wait, there's a protest, and it's against Harvard. Remember that you were saying about that? Did we clean that up?
No what?
Oh, never mind, never mind. So we're going on with this guy. He's out there loose. He
Yeah,
could still be out there loose.
yeah.
I tweeted right after they found his what they believed to be his car,
Mm,
at a dock,
mm.
and I immediately looked up the river that goes right through Lewiston, that connects with the Connecticut or so whatever starts with a K
Yeah,
river,
it's
which
called
which really is quite large, and it goes. So both rivers are fully navigable by at least up to maybe boats of 10 tons or so,
yeah.
and it goes right to the Atlantic. And
The
now one of
Andros.
his targets, his express targets, were National Guard installations, and there's one in Lewiston, and there are two right near the mouth of the major river that terminates at the Atlantic Ocean on the southernmost tip of Maine.
Well, he was in the Androscoggin River, so maybe
Yes,
it's the same river.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Runs right through Lewiston. Yeah.
this is. I remember driving through Maine and seeing the landscape. Um, it's pretty when you get up north, and it's sort of pretty around Portland. The rivers are make it somewhat picturesque, but boy, when I was driving through, it was an area that had a lot of problems with drugs. There was a heroin and fentanyl problem, just like any other urban place, and this guy was a 40-year-old reservist, and who was a real MAGA type apparently.
Well, so it was picturesquely forested and rural,
Yeah,
but
well,
it was socially suburban.
oh yeah. Well, it's like Idaho, like Montana, Idaho, places in Idaho
Sure.
where
Yeah. Yeah. Idaho. Yeah.
where the retired LA County sheriffs and police go up to retire up in Idaho. I
Is
mean,
it safer there?
yeah, no, well,
Is it like Novato?
that's where the some conservative MAGA types. I was talking with a Filipino friend, and
Do you have those left? Do you have any?
I have a few, but she lived in Texas, and we were talking. We do business with each other, um, and and then she said she's a realtor, and she said, "Why don't you come to Texas?" And I said, "The politics in Texas," and she says, "Oh, it's
Politics,
not so."
man. This culture sucks, man.
No, wait.
If
The
it ain't
culture,
Mexican or Vietnamese, just go ahead and what?
the culture isn't bad, but I said, "What about the politics?" And she said, "Oh, it's not so bad." She said, and I said, "What?" She said, "Well, you're a Republican, aren't you, Emil?" And I just froze.
Yeah, you locked up. You said,
I lied
hell
down.
no. You should have said, hell no. And then
Well,
click. That would have been the end of the conversation.
I need her business. No. The thing is, I have a lot of
Well, it's over now, man, if she watches this stuff at all.
yeah. Well, I have family members, in Texas, and actually, under certain circumstances, Texas would be fine. I've lived there, several, for like 5 years,
Well,
twice.
Austin, Houston, Galveston. That's all I need to see. Other than that,
Yeah.
you
Well,
can have
yeah,
it.
I lived in Dallas and I lived in Houston, and so and then you take 50 miles around each place, and I even like San Antonio, which is sort of near
Yeah,
Austin.
that's not bad. That's
Yeah,
also not bad.
but yeah, it's a big place, Texas, and you can find whatever you need. So I don't want to like write off all of Texas. It's just a tough place when you look at the majority, and California. You look at how the California political scene is at least not as offensive, even though we've got our problems in California. We do definitely have our problems. All right,
Oh
look,
no, man. Oh, don't say that.
we're not going to solve the gun problem here, but all right. So the other, let's hope they find him. I bet you they find him dead. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that's more likely than not. That's the way I would put it.
I don't really want to bet you, but it would be more interesting if they don't find him at all, and then he's like, DB Cooper, right? Like, what happened to Robert Card? They never found his body, and then he shows up like maybe 40 years from now in 2066 in somewhere, I know, Montana, Florida, or whatever. That would be kind of a cool story if that happened. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could have been. He could have gone to Canada too, but they've
ah,
got the border patrol up there.
the Canada, yeah.
Yeah, Canada.
So we'll,
Yeah, on Texas
yeah,
and people migrating there. To the people that I didn't know anyone personally
mm,
who chose to leave California for Texas. Okay, but I see the numbers, and the numbers are pretty high.
yeah,
A lot
yeah.
of people leaving for Texas and Florida,
Mhm.
and there's a similarity politically, right, between Texas and
Oh
Florida.
yeah, Texas, Florida, yeah,
And all I can tell you is that in the mid 1960s, I think I was in my first year of college, and I was doing a shakedown cruise with my first car, my first only personal car, and it was an Austin Healey 3000 two-seater aluminum,
okay,
convertible,
yeah.
and
I
I
like
drove all
Interceptor.
the way through. This is before the and everything except 66, right, was labeled. This is really early, man. 280 didn't exist yet,
Oh yeah, I remember
So
that. Yeah,
yeah, so I drove east. It would be the equivalent of 105, right, coming out of LA,
yeah. And what
and
happened?
going east, and towards Vegas, right. So I drove that route all the way through that point in New Mexico, got to El Paso, crossed into Texas, and I got stopped. I got
Oh,
stopped by a Texas highway patrolman,
right, a Ranger.
and he said, "What kind of car is this, son?"
Never
And I
seen
said,
one of these.
"Well, I guess you don't read script because it's on the hood. It's Austin Healey."
Oh, and then he put you up on the hood.
That did not endear me to him. And I said,
Yeah,
I was just leaving.
yeah,
I was going back in this direction because I got to use the can. Is that okay with you? And so I went to the next gas station, used the can. I got a lot of looks there while I was there, because
yeah,
I was different. And I
yeah,
turned right around and I said, "That's all I need to know about Texas for a while."
yeah. I'm telling you, that's pretty. That's common outside of some of the major cities. It's even common within the major cities. All I know is that having lived there in the 70s during that time when you were harassed.
Yeah, that's not
uh,
too far. That's only about 5 or 6 years difference.
yeah, I would say that you can find anything. Look, it's the land of Willie Nelson. You can find anything you want in Texas.
Well, Willie's a
Before,
flaming ass liberal, man, compared
yeah,
to most of those folks.
well, I know. I mean, you can, like I said, you can find anything you want in Texas before everything else finds you. Uh, but it
That's
takes a
not
little,
bad. That's not bad.
takes a little luck too. But
Yeah, you got to worry about chiggers.
yeah, well, I just
You
think
know.
I and every time I was ready to leave Texas, there were a lot of great things about it. So, but of course, when I had an opportunity to go to Washington D.C. or where did I leave from? I went back to California from Texas. There was no debate there. Going home. You know. So anyway, look, Dan. The other bit of news: this ground war
Oh
situation.
boy.
We're expanding the ground war. This is not. This is not good.
Yeah, it's been
And
reduced to not a war anymore. Now it is a full frontal assault. It's not quite full yet, but you can see the beginnings of
yeah,
a heavy assault. They've been softening up the area, and I hate to use that term, but they talk that way in
yeah,
the military. They've been softening up the area in two different ways. One of them was obviously with bombings, with so-called
yes,
air support.
Yeah.
And then the other one is yesterday they used tanks, right? A bulldozer and tanks to widen the roads to make it possible for large numbers of motorized troops
Yeah.
to enter swiftly, right, and get into northern Gaza as quickly and swift and effectively as possible. Now,
Well,
the question that's arising, right, is that there's a hospital there that can't move. They could not move because they're left with people who are in such critical care that if they are moved, they'll die immediately, right?
yeah.
So then the rumors are that there are tunnels. There's a tunnel complex, and it's one of the headquarters for Hamas. So there it is.
Yeah.
The
Well,
question is, how are they going to attack the hospital?
this is a this is the problem with a ground war, and they always mention the tunnels, and they always mention where Hamas headquarters were located, and the whole idea about the slowdown that was announced early this week was so that they could try to negotiate more on the hostage release.
That was the idea. But
Yeah,
what is the best indication that you think there are external indications, right? The typical poker tell, we call them tells. So what's the tell that a major ground assault is afoot?
that. What do you mean? I don't follow. Well,
Major ground assault that they're going to actually mass. We're going to be talking about a mass assault, a
yeah.
large group of
Well,
people.
they probably want to force the negotiations to go more their way and say, look, you want to avoid this. But they could be bluffing too, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a possibility. But what are the other possible scenarios? You know, when you do these kind of things and you're looking at international relations, you got to do different scenarios, right?
Yeah. All right. So what is the? Because right now there's more than 220 people hostage,
That's right.
according to Israeli officials. So uh, you threaten to go in, and you go in a little bit, and hopefully that loosens up the number of hostages that get released immediately.
Well, they took some risks when they told people to move south, and then they bombed places in the south,
Yeah.
and they bombed people who were along the path to the south. Okay, they did that like as almost as soon as they said evacuate the north, right? So then early that's when they bombed the path, but then early this week they bombed the south after they had told people you'd be safer in the south. Okay, so that's one tell, and by tell I mean
One tell that what that.
that they really don't care that much about the hostages.
Oh, that is Israel doesn't. Yeah. Okay. All right. I see where you're
Because
going.
because the natural reaction, if I was holding a hostage, is I'd kill a couple,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
and I'd send them back in bad condition and say, okay, just keep bombing the South. You know.
I think that it's true that if I think what you're saying is true that they don't care. They don't care what's happening to the hostages.
Now we're talking about the leadership
Yeah.
of of Israel. We're not
Right.
talking and also the military.
Right.
We're not talking about the Israeli population in
right.
general.
That's an important point. But I was talking to our mutual friend, and I said, "What about the hostages? How is that going to affect things?" And I think that he was taking a much harder stand than the general population, saying that he doubts if that most people have kind of sadly written off the hostages as that's
That's
the
what I'm
way it
saying,
works. That's the way it works in war. So
and
it's
that's what I'm saying about the military attitude.
yeah,
Once again, right? Our friend, our mutual friend, was an officer in the U.S. Army for
yeah,
many years.
yeah. Well, I think he's probably right. I think that what you call a tell is pretty obvious that they're not caring as much. Although you could also look at it as, hey, look, we're going to do this, and maybe the negotiations will loosen up and more hostages will go free. But that I don't think Hamas cares either, and
No, they don't.
they don't care about enough about it. So
No,
I think it's all collateral damage right now.
Hamas clearly didn't care when they attacked Israel the way that they did,
Right.
with savagery and butchery. You
Right.
know,
Well,
that, this reminds me of the situation with Rwanda, in Africa. When you attack people with that kind of savagery and butchery, this is not a way to win friends among a family of nations.
right.
And it is also a way to guarantee that your home population is going to suffer the consequences. And so
Yeah.
you have to know that what they did was going to result on massive military reaction against civilian populations.
I think maybe Hamas was a bit bored, or bored is not an appropriate term.
Holy shit!
I
Excuse
what
me. I said
what
I
happened?
didn't. Holy. I said shet.
All
SHET.
right, what happened?
Yeah.
What happened? Did you see
No,
something?
no. I said holy something, and I wanted to make sure I cleaned it up with the FCC.
Uh, I don't think the FCC has control over this, but good standards and good manners do. But no, look,
Now we're going to get judgmental, are we?
my only point is that I don't. I think that uh, a lot of people, both pro-Israeli and pro-Muslim, were here in America were scratching their heads wondering why Hamas did what it did. And I think they just wanted to force the issue, saying, hey, this is how we feel. We don't care. And we're going to come after you.
We know that this is gonna. They think they're prepared. They think that their tunnel system and everything they got down there, and all the other stuff, and the backup from whoever among the Arab nations, particularly those that are Islamic states,
Yeah.
that they're going to get help, and so they're kind of arrogant. And the other country that has been exhibiting a lot of arrogance over the last 15 years or so is Iran. I'm sorry, is Iran.
Run. Yeah. And then, you have both Iran and Lebanon, right?
Yep,
Warning Israel
yeah,
against launching this invasion. So now who knows?
that's
Maybe
right.
we're going to get Hezbollah in,
And Hezbollah is more powerful in Lebanon than Lebanon's own domestic government.
right. And so this is the thing. A lot of people will say, look what Israel did to Hezbollah in 2006, 2007. They don't want to mess. That was early on, like 2 weeks ago. Now, no. Now I don't know if that same assessment stands. Now, maybe everyone's emboldened by Israel's repeated airstrikes, and now by Israel going in, and now this is exactly the thing that people who were looking at Biden's speech and hoping that Israel would heed the warning to not be consumed by rage, to not, be not be prone to making mistakes, because that happens when you're consumed by rage. Now it seems like Israel has got more than a foot in the water. You know.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I might. The other thing that we haven't mentioned, we mentioned Iran, but as a supporter of what's going on
Mm.
with Hezbollah and Hamas, but uh, uh, forces that have been, how can I put this, recruited and organized by Iran in both Syria and Iraq, right, have been firing on American positions.
Oh
And
yeah.
for the first time, the U.S. struck back with air bombardment.
Right.
And I wouldn't even risk jets for that. I would actually, if I were the U.S., I would put short range missiles. I would use a few rockets to do that job. But now, my younger son was saying, "Man, is this all going to break loose? Are people going to go to the nukes, and we'll all be fried?" And I think if that happens, we've got a ways to go.
Yeah.
But Iran's leaders have been really arrogant. When they're interviewed on Western news media,
Yeah.
they're really arrogant. Ha ha ha. The Americans put aircraft carriers in the Eastern Mediterranean, and they've amassed like 900 soldiers and sailors that are, you know, being trained and retrained for the possibility of work on the land wherever they're needed, right? And as a support for Israel. And I'm sure there are already, quote, American advisors, unquote, right,
Oh yeah, yeah. There's, I'm
on the
sure that.
ground in
Well,
Israel.
you got the naval, some bits of the naval fleet there. They've been mobilizing for the last week or so.
Yeah.
So
Well, the first carrier went in the first week, and then last week the second carrier went in,
yeah.
and they're
So
not lightweight. I mean, they're you know they have great capability, particularly with the jets, the planes.
yeah.
Both the slower planes that are good for scouting and bombardment, plus the air attack
See,
fast jets like the F-16s, right?
see, this is the thing. Like we just have not been in this stage of of conflict really ever, right? I mean, this is really the first time. I mean, 67, 69, 73. That was not this, and now we have years, decades where the United States has pumped in money to Israel, and essentially it's the U.S. and Israel, and here we are in the Middle East, and here's why we pump in so much money to the Middle East or to Israel. It's
Yep,
because they
yep,
are our proxies there,
yep.
right? I mean, like it or not, they are in the same way that the Philippines is a military base, essentially for the U.S., where, if something happens to the Philippines because China rams into another naval ship, we're the U.S. is bound by treaty to help out the Philippines.
Right.
And same thing, you know, it's not just Israel; it's the Israel and the U.S.
I said I was asked to speak at a briefly at a classroom event at Sac State on
Yeah,
Wednesday, and one of the things that I mentioned is that if the Filipinos have to learn, especially college educated Filipinos, have to learn to develop a global perspective. They got to understand how what's happening in the Middle East affects U.S. Philippine relations and Philippine relations with other nations throughout Southeast Asia and in Asia, on a larger scale.
yeah. The equation is so much more than just Israel and the Middle East. It's the U.S., Israel, the Middle East. It's China. It's Russia. It's the
That's
Philippines.
right.
It's
That's right.
Asia.
It's South Korea,
It's South.
Japan,
And
everybody.
this has the capability of becoming global conflict.
Well, my son used the words World War III. It's already World War III.
Well, maybe I don't know. I mean, when you include Russia and China, certainly it's something that the United States as a world power is going to have to learn how to juggle. If how it juggles, and if the elections occur at the same time, what does America have? I mean, it's going to be a defining moment for America. A
Absolutely. And
defining
and
moment.
and now
Yeah,
we have our defining moment is going to be guided by the hand of Mr. Johnson, who is not a new Speaker of the House.
right.
I
And that
read one piece that gave me a slight glimmer of hope about Johnson's leadership, and that is that he has. I don't know if it's by actual paternity or by adoption. It's probably the latter. But he has among his children one black son, a 14-year-old, and in his public statements, he has discussed how he's got two 14-year-olds, one white one and one black one, and the black one clearly has different experience in high school and growing up and going socially than his white son, and he's very aware of that, and that his black son is treated the lesser for it, and also that Johnson had previously condemned the police murder of George Floyd.
right,
So,
right.
that's something that's not going to endear him with his colleagues on the right.
Maybe, but at least he has a sense of empathy. He's still you know, a MAGA type. He's still
Yeah,
uh,
on all other
yes,
issues and
still in with
concerns.
January 6th. He still voted to, or did not vote to certify the election
That's right.
uh, 2020. So, by all the other litmus tests, he is as conservative as. And then you bring up the Bible and the whole the religious thing. Which look, I'm religious, but it's when it comes to government. I mean, there is a separation of church and state.
Well, that's the idealism that we were taught when we were coming up in grade school, middle
Yeah,
school, and sometimes all the way into college. Right?
yeah,
They tell us that there's this First Amendment separation of church and state, and actually, my questions in grammar school, like seventh and eighth grade, I went to Catholic school. My questions were, yeah, is that real or for show? Okay, because it doesn't feel at the time that I asked that question, civil rights demonstrations were getting smashed.
yeah,
The first time a successful large scale demonstration uh, was held was the Poor People's March, right? Martin Luther King on Washington D.C.
right.
But other than that, most of the marches ended up looking like what happened on the bridge, right?
You mean the
Yeah,
Stemmons
in
in Alabama?
Alabama,
Yeah,
and also the famous case for when a public figure can be described right in journalistic descriptions um, as having done something bad, right? Was the classic Sullivan case, right?
mm,
And that was associated with the massacre on Edmund Pettus Bridge.
yeah, right. Pettus Bridge, the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Pettus.
Pettus, yeah. So look, I just think that we are in this because of the arrangement of geopolitics, the current arrangement of geopolitics. We are in these uncharted waters, and all it takes is one false move, right? And they've got hostages. And when I say they, I say Hamas. Hamas has hostages, American hostages. This thing can flash up just like that. And we're in an election year. And in some ways, I'm happy that Joe Biden is there. In some other ways, I don't know who else could be there, but I know if it was the other guy who is running and ahead, I
I think the Saudis they play a major role as much as the whole MBS thing
yeah,
is problematic. The Saudis play a major role. Um, the Yemenis had the audacity to fire rockets right towards Israel, or at least we think
yeah,
they were either going towards Israel or towards the first American carrier that showed up in the Eastern Mediterranean.
yeah.
But the Arabs have been having that problem with the Yemenis for a long time. I mean, remember when the Yemenis attacked the coal,
Yeah.
and they
It,
damn well almost sank the thing, right?
well, this is the dangerous thing that the more Israel does its airstrikes and ground attack, the more it emboldens Arabs and Muslims everywhere, and that doesn't bode well before trying to keep the war focused or keep the war small. The war gets bigger, more people get in, differences occur even amongst Arabs and Muslims, and then now we have, you know, now any hope for peace is diminished greatly
Oh yeah,
until there's a skirmish or two.
sure.
And I just don't know how you get back. I mean, the negotiation table is always open until the ground war begins in earnest. It sounds like it has. And so now negotiations, like we were saying earlier, it sounds like both sides, the leadership doesn't care about the hostages.
Yep.
And
Neither do the Iranians. They don't care
yeah,
about any of that stuff.
yeah,
Hamas should have understood that they were absolutely simply the tool of Iran, just like Hezbollah is the tool of Iran. just like the Yemenis are the tool of Iran, and they gotta, they have to understand that they're getting used, and they're getting used in the worst possible way, and the people who are going to pay the price are not necessarily their quote constituents, but the people who are going to pay the price are the population in their geographic area.
And that, yeah, that includes Palestinians and Israelis,
Everybody.
everybody. And
You know,
this is the sad thing, and
that's war.
because
That's war, man.
yeah, even though they are they are different sides, they're divided, but in the end, everyone gets hurt almost equally.
Right.
And and I was thinking about this as I hear more news about airstrikes by Israel into Gaza.
Right.
Who's going to rebuild all that?
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be a cost.
It's going to be interesting because I think the UN is going to put pressure on the neighboring, mostly Islamic states, to help out.
Yeah.
And
Well,
with that
it's
with
got
that reconstruction. Obviously, the U.S. is going to contribute, and so are the other major European powers. I think
yeah, but
the French, and the British.
but the U.S. has contributed so much to the building up of the military,
Yeah,
and it just doesn't make sense. And I can see how people get kind of turned off to all this. I mean, it's one thing to be a peacenik and say no war, pacifist, yeah, but the money still keeps flowing to Israel and Ukraine, and you want to defend and keep the balance of power.
yeah. But the so-called conservatives, though, are pro-Israel but anti-Ukraine. That's the interesting thing.
Right, and they're also anti-money. They don't want to fund anything.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, they
except
think that they're saving the future generations of Americans, right?
I heard a
We don't
while.
want to saddle our children and our grandchildren in debt.
Here's one thing that I have learned from just talking to you about this and others about Gaza and Israel and this whole Middle East thing that's blowing up in our faces. And that's how ignorant Americans are
They are.
when it comes to Israel and Gaza and the Palestinians. We talked about this a little bit last week, and you talked about the emergence of uh, Palestinian studies and how universities have been the base for uh, really an education of young people on how to talk about the Middle East and how to view it in terms of, suddenly, the idea that Israel is a colonizer.
Yes.
Israel is a perpetrator of apartheid. Israel is an occupier. That wasn't talk that you heard in the 1970s and 1980s.
And it is quasi racist as well.
In the sense that
Well, Israelis
anti-Semitic.
are not. They present to the world that they belong on that piece of land because they're indigenous to that land. They are not.
Well,
Most of the Israelis
what
were
about the Bible?
colonizers that came from Eastern Europe.
Right, right. But what about the Bible? What about the Jews? The
Okay, so
Jews were there the
that's what
whole.
makes it holy, and that's why they're in the trouble they're in right now because they keep doing the chosen people thing, and I mean, the chosen people thing has been the source of colonial slaughtering and
Yeah,
imperial slaughtering from different directions, right?
yeah,
Sometimes the Muslims did it, the Christians did it a lot, and this is the first real opportunity for Jewish people to do it.
yeah. Well, it's funny. What you said initially was that the settlers, the people from the Jews who were there in Palestine, put in Palestine, yeah, they were mostly from Eastern Europe. They
Yep.
were mostly, survivors of the Holocaust.
And more modernly, right, since
Yeah,
1948,
yeah,
they're from all over the world. They're
yeah.
part of the Jewish diaspora from all over the world.
So if you break it down, 1917 Balfour Declaration. Here's the British determining that this area, this land, and the British, they're the arbiters in colonization, right? Or were before the
Right.
U.S. did. So from 1917 to 1948, it's the British. From 48 on, it's in the hands of the U.S., right?
Hmm. Yep.
and then the U.S. didn't really know what to do because it was never as big an issue until the 67 war. 67, 69,
Yeah, yeah.
73, the Yom Kippur War. And then since then, it's just been, you know, people have tried to avoid it. People have tried to say, okay, we're going to go for peace, but how do we get there? Uh, Clinton tried.
And they pretend to be favorable towards the
Oh, two state.
two-state solution, but they've done little or nothing. Not even they don't even engage in intelligent, descriptive possibilities
Yeah.
about how that might be possible. Like,
They-
give me a geographic,
yeah.
right, illustration
But
of how that might work.
well, they can't because they haven't even adopted the legal structure for
You got it.
for a two state solution to work. They
But I think the legal structure would reflect what people would what they would find possible, right?
yeah.
Geographically,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, but just in terms of treaties, in terms of,
Yeah, right.
I mean, how would a two state solution work? So it sounds nice, but get this.
Yeah,
You mentioned this the other day on this program. Joe Biden was speaking to the Australian Prime Minister
yeah, yeah.
in the press conference there, and he talks two state solution like, hey, that's where we're going post war.
Right, right. After Gaza,
If we're
what
lucky,
next? What's next?
if we're lucky to have a post war,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know. I mean, we don't know, but we can hope. But
Well, Iranian ICBMs can't reach us,
yeah,
but they can sure pace the hell out of Israel and Europe. You know.
right. Well, that's all they need to really rattle, everyone's chain, right, and to get everyone concerned.
Well, I
Um,
mean, they could wipe out Israel literally, and
yeah.
then there would be a retaliation, and then the question is, how bad is the retaliation going to be against Iran? So
See, here's the thing: are we ready for another, Hiroshima, Nagasaki? Are we ready for another one of those?
it doesn't matter if we're ready or not. What matters is what the people at the top are willing to do.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing.
Try
Um,
to imagine Trump being president right now.
well, if everything happens that hasn't happened or that has been put off from happening because we knew it was wrong. It happens under Trump because it's Trump. And and
Yeah,
that
but he's got the assistance of a whole political party.
yeah, because they are only interested in power and then in the end they don't care about the moral implications of Trumpism.
Yeah, the
They,
last good book they read was called The Prince.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, really, I mean you look at all the trials that Trump's involved in and what the GOP is willing to do, what they're willing to undergo. They're willing to throw away their principles, and it's sickening. It's
What
sickening.
principles?
Well, exactly, but it's
You're
just
talking about if you're talking about, you have to segregate the current, Republican Party, uh, at least ideologically, and clearly redefine them as not being traditional conservatism,
well,
right?
right. It's not traditional conservatism, but it's what passes for it now. Unfortunately,
Well, because the media keeps calling them conservatives.
yeah. Well,
And that's
they're
one of my great criticisms of media. You gotta stop calling them conservative. They
they're
call
more
them radical right, they call them extremists, and all
yeah.
the rest of that. But please stop calling them conservative
All
because
right.
nothing they do is conservative, right?
They're they're radical conservatives. A conservative is someone like William F. Buckley.
Oh, there we go.
May he
Now
rest
you're
in
going
peace.
back to your grammar school years.
Yeah, a conservative is like a conservative is like Milton Friedman,
Okay, okay,
the free market economist.
sure, sure.
Conservative, you
Dwight
know,
D. Eisenhower, that's a conservative.
right? But a conservative is not
Richard Nixon,
Richard Nixon or MAGA type.
right, right.
Actually, Richard Nixon, for as much as we can
He
malign,
passed for a moderate conservative.
yeah, he got the EPA.
But he was corrupt like a contemporary conservative.
Well, corrupt like a lot of American politicians. And look, this is really where we are now.
Oh,
Because,
really?
well, I mean, if you look at Trump and you look at the amount of corruption that is
Oh,
linked to
yeah.
his
But
government,
look at man. 1/3 of this society ignores that reality,
I
right?
know,
And they're going to vote for him. You
and they
know,
think it's okay. Yeah, I was reading a
no,
New York.
it's worse than they think it's okay. They think it's wrong that anybody's prosecuting the dude.
Right. Well, I was reading a New York Times piece the other day about Lahaina.
See, there you
Lahaina,
go. That's why you're so corrupted.
yeah, no, Lahaina in
NYC, man, God, that's so liberal.
Lahaina in Maui there,
Yeah,
and they talked about this corrupt businessman who continues to get contracts uh, without without competitive pricing, without competitive bidding, which
sure.
is a basic staple of journalism. To go get find that corruption, find that
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah,
competitive
yeah.
bidding, and this is like a thing in Hawaii,
Yeah,
and
well, yeah.
they've already passed out millions of dollars of contracts, and this guy who's already been convicted, they exposed him,
It's it's,
and
it's
it
not
just
just an Anglo colony. It's
right, but
also an Asian colony.
right, but I think the point I want to make is that it gets to
Oh
this is
yeah,
what
you used to live there too.
yeah no, but this is
You
this
ain't just talking stuff, man. You
yeah, I
live
used to live in
inside.
Hawaii. But this
Yeah,
is the thing about rule of law. This is the thing about following these things. We need to be outraged when these things happen.
yeah.
And now there's like this feeling that, oh, that's not a big deal. Oh, that's not, Trump. And then Trump, four times, indicted, 91 counts, felony count. Not a big deal. It's like we have lost our it's more than moral compass. We've lost our taste for justice and fairness.
Right.
We've lost something. America is, I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
just want to win. They just want to win. Okay.
Oh, and this is the Al Davis method. Just win, baby.
Well, it's yeah, just win, baby. Well, there was the guy from the Green Bay Packers that also had a
Oh,
similar attitude. So
Vince Lombardi.
Vincent Lombardi, he was the original.
When the going gets tough, the tough take bribes. What was that? I
Okay,
didn't
wait a
see.
minute. Are we talking baseball or football?
Well,
Not
actually,
to mention hockey.
the yeah, the most corruptive has been baseball recently.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
There's
but
people that can't make the Hall of Fame.
oh, wait a minute. They're not all saints. Football has a problem
No,
with
these muscles are real, man. This
yeah.
got nothing to do with baseball.
Wait. They've got PED problems in football, but basketball, it was exposed this week.
Right.
Uh, their athletes are beating up the women, domestic violence,
Sure, sure.
left and
Well,
right.
a
So
lot of that stuff is because they're using, uh, you know, drugs that tend to make you aggressive like that.
yeah. Well, it's just I know
They
this is
may also just be that way. I'm not making excuses for them.
but this is just where America is now, and when you see your leaders and you see the people that you admire on the athletic stage, and the American royalty are the athletes and the movie stars, the showbiz people. When you
Don't
see them,
forget musicians and singers.
oh, the musicians and singers, the Taylor Swifts, she's
Well,
the entire
you think
Taylor
she can
Swift.
beat up on her boyfriend? I don't know.
Oh, Taylor Swift is the entire U.S. economy now from the way she's getting.
She just made $1 billion.
Yeah, she's just
But
the entire U.S. economy.
she could, yeah. I want to see her take on Musk.
But if and Musk isn't doing so well
No,
because
he's not. No,
Twitter's
he's
not
not. People have
Twitter's
caught up
not
with the
giving
fact
up.
that the guy's a flaming idiot. He was just lucky.
Well, everyone who gave money to Musk is now saying, "Oh, what the heck?"
What did I do?
Everything's hemorrhaging because Twitter isn't growing ground. What's growing is Facebook,
Yeah,
Meta. And I was saying yesterday how when Facebook was just starting, remember how all the analysts would say, "Well, this thing called Facebook, it's interesting, but how will they make money? How will
how can you monetize Facebook?
I mean, that was a big thing. Like, oh, I would never, bet on Facebook. How are they going to make money? And just like every other media
And we
company,
moved all the way to Bitcoin.
yeah.
To say so.
Well, because
Same thing
people
happened with Bitcoin, right?
well, people want to go out in the front, right? Because
Right.
God, we got it
Well,
wrong on
but
Facebook.
those people who got scorched, right, when Bankman-Fried
Yeah.
was being investigated and they knew he was going to get burned. Those people who got scorched, if they held on to their stuff, they're recovering now.
Oh yeah. See, this is the thing about all that investment stuff. If
Yeah,
you hang in there, ultimately, if you sell, you lose. If you sell, you commemorate your
you
loss.
got to hang in there.
Yeah, and
That's the old thing that people tell you, even about investing in the regular stock market, right?
yeah,
You
yeah.
got to do it for long term. You can't, freak out and
If you're in a solid stock, because all right, I'll just give you an
yeah, you got to use your brain and you got to quit listening to your crazy uncle.
yeah. Well, look, in 2001, right, the stock market goes crazy because of 9/11. Stocks are in the tank. You can get some stocks for a song. I mean, like Citibank for
Should have
five
done it
dollars.
too. We had a shot at Intel and
Yeah,
gold
yeah. I
at the
mean,
same time, and I told my wife, "No, let's just buy a house."
yeah. Well, not a bad investment, but you
Yeah,
look
but
at
it wasn't like Intel and gold. Let me tell
yeah.
you,
Well,
at
I
the
know.
time it was ridiculous.
Well, like I said, my example, just because I remember the symbol C was like Citibank was for $5.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, you can ride that up 6, 7, 8, 9 times,
sure. They
10
yeah
times,
they run two of my accounts now.
several times. And so if you just held, I had a high tech stock that dropped, and I gave up and sold. Now the lesson is stay put, stay
Hang
put.
in there. Hang in
Yeah,
there. Look at the health of the company and what it is. What's their relationship to the society
yeah,
overall?
yeah.
Now,
Like
see, if we were completely lacking in morals and ethics,
yeah.
we would have invested in the Colt patent for AR-15s. Now, if
Oh,
we had done that just 10 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
oh yeah. Oh,
We,
because
we would be we would be touring the globe and poisoning other people's minds and getting them to invest
oh yeah, we'd be
in,
raw,
in,
raw
in the
gun.
manufacture of small arms.
You can't do that. You can't. Well, here's the thing. Um, it's it's been said that they have these funds that are made up of good guy stocks and stocks that are moral, and some make money, but most don't. I mean, the ones that make the most money are like the drug companies and all the polluters, all the
That's
ones that
right.
are
That's right.
negative. So I don't know. This is the reason why, aside from 401ks and that kind of thing, I'm not in the market. I'd rather not be in the market.
Oh, what's the matter? You're wimpy on capitalism. You have to
No,
support the
I
system. The system is entirely capitalist.
yeah, I think that's the problem. That's the problem with me. I'm happy to be in my COVID closet here.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
all right. So Dan, all right. So, since we started talking about Israel and Gaza, just the amount of history. I've been going over a lot of history and listening to lectures. Listening to people might criticize Noam Chomsky for being a leftist, but
Oh, he's super left, but he is one of my heroes.
he's got a clear-eyed view of what happened and where we are now. And his bottom line is it's Israel and the U.S.
That's
They're
right.
inseparable. We have funded Israel.
Way back in the early and mid '60s, when people still didn't understand that we were making a major commitment in Vietnam, right? As
Yeah,
early as 62, 63. Everything after 54 and Dien Bien Phu, right?
yeah,
And but it was clear what kind of commitment we were making by 60, 61, 62. People were still not awake to that, right? Until Time magazine put a picture of an American advisor, right, on the
uh,
front cover, and the guy had two 50 caliber bullet bands wrapped around his chest. I mean, obviously they did that for effect, right? You don't go walking around with that on on your chest, because if you get hit, you're gonna kill yourself and everybody else. But he had the bandoliers across his chest and a big X, looking like Pancho Villa.
yeah.
And people said, "What the hell? What's that advisor doing?" Well, God, I'm forgetting his name right now, but there was that one guy that instigated all kinds of for hire mercenary support in Vietnam before the U.S. went in a formal way, right, by sending troops in because they needed they needed a boat to get sunk, right? And so they, just like the main.
Yeah,
But
right.
anyway, they what's his name? Started with an S, but he was the guy with the cowboy hat and the pearl handled Colt 45 long Colt, the revolver. I can't remember his name, man. It
I
started
remember.
with an S. But wherever that guy showed up, the next thing that was going to happen was the U.S. military was going to be behind them, right?
Yeah.
And so the
See,
guy showed up in the Philippines. Boom, the U.S. military is right behind him. This
yeah,
was during the Marcos era, and it was his fight against the NPA, right, the New People's Army. And then he shows up in Nam, and I said, "Well, there it goes. There it is, right there, man." And so it's kind of predictable. These kinds of things happen, but the general American public is completely ignorant to this.
yeah.
And it all comes down to whether or not these issues and these events are covered by the media.
You're
And
right.
then it's only a few. At the time, Time Magazine and Newsweek, they were in competition, right, directly against each other, but they were quite good.
Yeah, but the thing is, even in this Israel Gaza
Yeah,
conflict, what you hear the mainstream stuff, and that's somewhat reliable, but it's not everything that's going on, and
that's right.
it's
Well,
one view, and it's not. What Chomsky is saying is you won't hear about the things that are critical of Israel and the U.S., but he was saying that the U.S. is they're in control, and that if you want to
yeah,
affect what's going on in uh, in Gaza and Israel now, well, go to Washington
that's right.
because
You got to attack the Congress.
yeah,
Yeah.
and because that's where it's going to, where things are going to change because Israel doesn't do anything without the U.S.'s backing.
You got it.
They will not do anything without the
You
U.S.
got it. And
And
it's not
even
just
the
us
ground
giving
war.
them. People think of us giving them, the U.S. giving Israel aid, but what they don't understand is not just money. Okay, what they have to understand is we buy a lot of their stuff,
Yeah.
and
Well,
they are very advanced in terms of AI,
oh yeah. Well, it's
software, even some hardware, chip design.
yeah,
Okay, and my question to my students is, what is an Uzi,
yeah.
right? When Reagan got shot, what kind of gun came out from underneath Secret Service blazers and sports jackets,
But they
and they
use
were
Uzis.
Uzis, and it became very popular. All of a sudden, everybody, I said, "Watch this! Everybody's going to run out and want to buy a goddamn Uzi."
Yeah,
Do we have it in 9? Do we have it in 45? What caliber do we have it in? Those are
yeah.
the two calibers. But
Well,
yeah,
I just think that when you consider Israel, you got to consider it as the U.S.'s arm there in the Middle East.
that's the way to look
And,
at it. Well, they have a little bit of they can call some independent shots, but they can't do it without checking off.
yeah, and that they didn't do the ground war without U.S. approval.
Right.
I mean, they had to tell the U.S. first. If the U.S. didn't want them to take it, they they wouldn't be doing it.
Well, yeah. Well, somebody shot a question at Biden um, as he was getting ready to board the chopper,
Yeah,
and they said, you know, "Are you doing anything to? Are you the one who's delaying, right, the attack, the ground war?" And he said, "Israel makes its own decisions."
right. Well, he's got to say that because Israel is the sovereign, right? And we're not
Right.
in control of Israel,
Right.
but we are because we are the financial. We provide the financial support. So if someone is really interested in protesting uh, what's happening in Israel and Hamas, you got to go to Washington. You
Yeah,
got to go
protesting
there.
it against Harvard or your local university administration.
Well,
Uh,
that helps. I mean,
it's drawing attention to the issue,
yeah,
but that doesn't make
it's
the
not going to make the
government
bomb
move.
stop. It's not
That's
going to
right.
make the bomb
That's
stop.
right.
But what it will do is open people's eyes to what's really going on,
That's right.
and in the
But you
same
got to
way,
be ready for the reaction too, and the
yeah,
reaction is well funded, right?
yeah,
The people who call everything that's critical of Israel, whether it's factual or not, right? They call it all anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
So they and if you're anti-Semitic, you must be pro-Holocaust, right? Either that or you're a Holocaust denier, or you like the fact that they had ovens and they were killing
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands of people at a time, and different, all that kind of stuff.
Well,
And so
it's
I said, I think I said on your show maybe 2 weeks ago
yeah.
that part of the U.S. and Western European support for Israel is a guilt trip that was established by their ignoring the Holocaust, the
Yeah.
reality that the Holocaust was happening.
Yeah. It's hard. The only position to take is the human position, being pro-Israeli and pro-Palestinian. It's a difficult one to find, but there's a way to get there. There's a way to get there that's anti-war, pro-peace, pro possibly a two-state solution. But what other way is there? What other way is there? But it's hard to get there because diplomats have been trying for decades to get there, and now Joe Biden, after years of being dormant on this idea of the two-state solution, bringing it back.
Yeah,
Maybe after
yeah,
after the conflict, but it could be months. It
yeah,
could be
yeah.
months.
But
And
he was at least witness to it, and he was participant in it for decades, right?
yeah,
Because ever since he was on the Senate
yeah.
and all the way through his vice presidency under Obama.
Well, but Obama did it wasn't
No, it wasn't real
Obama
strong.
did
Obama was not.
he didn't do anything
Obama was not the internationalist that everybody played him up to be.
yeah.
He got the freaking Nobel Prize, and I was going for what, for being black.
Yeah,
What was,
he was the rock star, right? He
yeah,
was the
yeah.
rock star who got everyone excited.
So we
But
give Nobel prizes for just
charisma. He had charisma, but
dude could
no,
talk, man.
no,
He
no
was he
policy.
was a good orator.
Yeah,
In fact, the last several orators that were any good were all Democrats. Right? So
yeah. Well, I think that what it was, I don't know. It's like ever since Obama wasn't great. Trump gave Israel everything they wanted, and now Biden's trying to control that and bring it in and try to rein in Israel. But but Biden's still popular. In fact, he probably can win an election more in Israel than in the U.S.
yeah, I think he'd win an election everywhere else
Yeah,
except the U.S.
yeah. I mean, and
It's sort of like everybody loves San Francisco outside the U.S.
yeah,
Right?
right. Well, that's really
Inside,
unfortunate.
inside the U.S., they're worried about LGBTQ populations,
Yeah,
and they're worried about Pelosi, right?
yeah. Right. The evil twins. Yeah.
Yeah, see, well,
I
Feinstein's gone, so they got to talk about Pelosi.
yeah.
You know.
Well,
Anyway,
I hope that
still in Congress.
we well,
You when you started talking about Chomsky and you mentioned a couple of his positions from like for the Vietnam era, right,
yeah,
the Vietnam War era, uh, there were these great moments where he was on Buckley's show, Sunday discussion, and the two people who were the greatest antagonists from polar positions on global and domestic issues were Buckley versus Vidal. Remember that?
oh, Gore Vidal.
Or
Yeah,
Vidal versus Buckley.
yeah.
Also on a maybe a slightly more elevated kind of level of philosophical discussion, it was Chomsky versus Foucault.
Don't remember that.
Michel Foucault. Well, yeah,
Oh, Foucault. Right. Yeah. But the thing about Chomsky, man, he's now in his mid 90s.
yeah,
Still,
yeah. He outlived all the bastards.
yeah. I mean, that's how you
And
do
he's
it.
still smart too. He's still sharp. He's consistent with his classic
Yeah.
positions.
I saw him the other day. Had a little trouble with the hearing aid, but
That's right.
but I still think his analysis is spot on, and his memory of history
Yeah. Oh
is,
yeah.
the way he laid it out. Oh man, that's why we're in this mess.
Well, that
We're-
was our guy. That was when we started ethnic studies.
Mhm.
If people would, because the liberal progressive left
Mm.
at the college and university level were way into Foucault
Yeah,
and all of the socialist kind of thinkers. You
yeah.
know, what's his name? Marcel. What's his name in down at San Diego?
Oh, don't. Don't know.
He was mentor to Angela Davis for a while.
Oh no,
But
don't.
anyway, okay, I can't remember his name. But anyway, there were people like that. You know, the whole commitment to Ho Chi Minh, Che Guevara, France Fanon, right?
Yeah,
Remember all that stuff?
Franz Fanon. Fanon.
Fanon. I thought the N was silent, but anyway,
Is it Fanon?
Fanon. Yeah,
Fanon. Fanon.
yeah, like
The
Chopin,
Richard of the Earth.
sort of like Chopin.
Chopin. Chopin.
I actually heard somebody say Chopin the other day, and I thought,
Chopin.
"What
Oh
the
yeah,
fuck, you uncultured son of a bitch? What's wrong with you?"
they thought it was a Food Network show.
And I
Chopin.
heard another one where the guy said Dvorak, and
Dvorak.
it's
Oh man,
Dvorak. It's
Dvorak.
Dvorak, you idiot. But
Dvorak.
anyway,
Yeah. All right. All
yeah,
right.
but
So
I had an Eastern European piano teacher, so
yeah. Well, I had a Filipino piano teacher. You know, Mr. Anino. He had his arms.
yeah. But did she was she good at pronouncing the
Oh,
names
but
of the
no, it was not Mrs. Anino. It was Mister. Mister.
Mister? Oh, okay.
Arms around me and hit me. Oh, it's
Oui,
that's
oui,
how come I'm not a
oui.
piano player. Hey, all right. So Dan, let's move on to one other thing.
Oh no,
A couple other things. My daughter
Jollibee.
sent me something about Jollibee. Jollibee,
What
the
happened?
workers campaign. Now there's a Jollibee. There's Jollibees in the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's one right here in Dali City.
Yeah, because they moved the one from this downtown a long
Oh
time
yeah, the
ago.
one on 4th Street that used to
Yeah,
be there in the corner.
I like that one. But anyway, the one Jollibee, the workers campaign. Apparently, the president of Jollibee North America, Beth Delacruz, is appearing at the Harvard Club on
Ah, that's what she's
11,
protesting.
Saturday 11:30 a.m. and they want to pressure her. These people, these protesters from Anak Bayan,
Okay.
Anak Bayan. That's the name of the group. They're pressuring her to meet all the demands of the Jollibee workers, and
It's the
they're going to
national
be,
youth.
yeah, they're going to be
The national youth. The nation's youth.
right. They're speaking out for higher wages, better working conditions. You know, this is the thing. I don't know why Filipino food is, if you go in a fast food situation, be it Jollibee or Goldilocks, and you want to get a quick crispy pata. Well, you don't get crispy pata.
No, no, that's too advanced.
That's too, no, that's too ethnic. You get at Jollibee, you get spaghetti, hot dog, hot
They
dog.
got lumpia. You know, they got lumpia, and they got that version of pancit Tagalog.
Pancit Tagalog, which is
Yeah.
has a hot dog. Everything has a hot dog.
That's the spaghetti.
The spaghetti, yeah,
Spaghetti's got banana sauce, red sauce.
and hot. Well,
Yeah,
so you
you
can
got
tell. I mean,
Jufran. It's got Jufran.
I like Jufran. That has nothing to. That's not an anti-Semitic thing. It's a, it's a Filipino sauce, Jufran.
Jufran.
I
It's
think
banana, but it's red like queso.
every Passover, I take the Jufran.
Oh, God. Okay.
I put it on my pork. Okay,
Yeah.
so anyway, so she'll be there attending a $280 a ticket PH Times Now.
And
Where
they're going to protest while she's speaking.
well, this group, a $280 a ticket group, is they're networking with her. It's trailblazers, Philippine business leaders, and social entrepreneurs. And Justice for Jollibee workers are going to stand outside asking attendees, which side are you on? The Jollibee workers who are lower paid, or the CEOs who make these, huge amounts of money and exploit their workers? So this is the schism that exists in Filipino America, right? There's some Filipinos who do very well, most of whom are not Filipino American born here.
No, no,
They
they're
come
Filipino
here
American.
to the Philippines. So there's an extension of that. Elitist Filipino becomes elitist American. Homegrown Filipinos stay, it's generational wealth and class.
Well, and they have a name for themselves that segregates them from the American born and the American raised.
And what's the name for themselves? That
Expats. Expats.
I'm the expat. I'm the
Expats. Yeah.
CEO of
Yeah,
Jollibee.
they're not American. They're Filipinos who happen to be in the US.
Yeah, I mean that I think is one of the biggest uh, things about what I experience when I'm in Filipino groups. That there are the expats, there are the Filipino immigrants, and the Filipino bistaters, dual nationality,
Right.
and
Binationals. 6
binationals.
months here, 6 months there, you know, that kind.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a global way to live, right? And you make dollars and spend pesos.
Bakit di marunong Tagalog?
Yeah, I know.
Hindi marunong Tagalog sila eh.
You're not you don't know the code.
Yeah.
Wow, you're like a
You
sick. Just
you you you
drinking
have
that water.
forsaken your heritage.
Oh, oh, I know the Filipino American history,
Right.
the American Filipinos, and that's what I want to close on
Well,
because
but see, it was insignificant. Our history here in the United States was insignificant until the post 65 guys got here. Before that,
uh,
it was
well,
lower class. It was just, people who are working in the fields.
that's right because
People,
the people
yeah,
they're
they're
dark, dark.
uneducated and,
They're,
they had no intellectual capability or, academic skills.
and they're dark. They're the
They're
dark
dark.
one.
They're dark, so dark.
Oh, so dark, so dark.
It's tragic, talaga eh.
Don't
It's tragic.
they know you have skin lightener now? You have
Yeah.
skin lightener.
It's the first thing you see, right? When you walk into a 7-Eleven
Yeah.
in the Philippines, there's the food side and there's the cosmetic side. And
Ah,
as soon as you walk in, the first thing on the cosmetic side is 7 different brands of skin lightener.
wow. I mean, I have not been to the
Yeah,
Philippines.
I got cousins that buy the gallon size all the time.
Oh,
So
the gallon size. Oh,
the
that's the
gallon
reason.
size, man,
Yeah, they put it.
they're swimming in this stuff.
Yeah, I don't put it on my hair. I don't put it on my hair.
I don't know what you put in your hair, but you're way behind me, dude. They used to say, "Hey, Dan rocks the gray," but
Yeah.
I haven't heard them say, "Hey, Dan rocks the white." They haven't done it.
Yeah. Well, the white, that's the thing. I had to like do something to turn white or to stop turning white.
All right. I
So,
just got my hair only my hair. My dad. I took after my dad. My dad did the same thing.
uh, well, Dan, it's Halloween coming up,
Yeah.
and I've written on my Aldef blog, and I want to close out with this: that it's time to maybe dress up like your favorite Filipino American historical character for Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Itliong shades and cigars and mustache. That's too easy.
That's not too easy. That's enough for me. I
People,
like the
people to figure that out.
seven fingers. The seven fingers.
That one's hard.
That's
That
hard.
part is hard.
People won't figure it out. So
Which three aren't there?
I asked Johnny, his son, and he could not recall. But you got to figure
That's embarrassing.
what fingers would be prone to elimination if you're at a cannery and you had an accident.
You're working with the iron chink.
And yeah, that's what they called it.
Yep.
It was not a slur, but the thing was they called him lobster, right? Because he had like these claws.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
figured he had to have the claw-like things. So it must have been the pinkies. He lost all his pinkies in the right.
Oh, to the middle finger. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm figuring. He's got
You could only flip the wing with one hand,
seven.
not
And then
not the full bird.
right, you need the thing, right? You need your
Yeah.
claws to have your cigar to hold
To
your
be able to
cigar.
grip something.
So I'm going as Larry.
Okay, you are.
I'm going as Larry because, and if I go to your house and knock on your door, I will be.
I'll answer you with I gave at the office.
Yeah, I'll be in my Larry Itliong drag.
I gave at the office.
Yeah, performing my Larry Itliong mini monologues,
Yeah. Right.
and I will trick or treat at your house. And my trick, if I don't get vegan candy, is I will perform my Larry Itliong speech
Okay.
from a lecture he gave at UC Santa Cruz
Okay.
in 1976, where he says, a lot of people want to buy me off. One of the biggest organizations that I grew up with in this country offered me $200,000. They said, Larry Itliong, we know you need money. You do a good job in California. We'll give you 200,000 to do whatever you want to do. And just the implication of that, I'm supporting Cesar Chavez. They want to give me 200,000. 200,000. You know what I tell them? I said, I don't need that 200,000. I can eat rice and pusit, bagong,
Yeah.
mango. I don't
Yeah.
need 200,000. I said, 200,000 to sell out my countrymen. We have about 350,000 Filipinos in California. That's $200,000. That's not even $1 a head. I don't want your money. If I want to sell my countrymen, give me 50 million. 50 million, I'll take it. 50 million.
Well,
So,
he should have given it a couple more years, and then he could have asked Marcos.
yeah. That's the thing about Itliong. He was, people don't know this, and, the stories coming out now, the Chavezes have acknowledged it back in 2015, Fonz gathering in Delano. They said, yeah, Larry, they knew it. But, for the record, it had to be known at the 50th anniversary of the Delano grape strike how important Larry Itliong was. And now we know, but now it's been 8 years, and, there's still on the school post office named after ratio Larry Itliong, Cesar Chavez. It's not really close. It's still,
No, and Chavez has got a whole day.
yeah, Chavez got a whole day in the nation.
Yeah.
And he's got a park. Have you been to that park down by Bakersfield,
No.
Kern County? It's really wild because it's off the beaten road. You don't even know that there's any fields there. Or, we say, where are the fields? I mean, you're like up in the mountains. And it's a little,
If you were down there, what is the status of Agbayani Village? I haven't been down there.
Oh, Agbayani Village is not near where the Cesar Chavez.
No, I know, but it's.
I don't know what it is, but I think it's still going because there's still some people who are living there.
Okay.
And there's still some people who are, descendants and wives and things like that. They're older, but they're still there.
Well, shit. I mean, we helped construct that thing. My 2 trips were in '74.
Yeah. Well, you did a good job, Manong Dan. You did a
Yeah,
good.
well, I was just one of many. There were a lot of people who volunteered. The people who impressed the hell out of me were the union volunteers.
Well, yeah,
They did some great work, man.
Look, Itliong was AFL-CIO. That was
Mhm.
something. What people don't know is that what Chavez had in 1965 was essentially like a Latino book club, social club thing. It was not a union. It was a farm workers association.
Yeah, NFWA. Yeah,
Yeah, it was not a union. And
NFWA. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, NFWA. And Itliong's was the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee. It was AFL-CIO.
AWOC.
And they were a union. They struck.
Yep.
And they went on strike September 8th after taking a vote on September 7th. But Itliong was no dummy. He knew he needed the new workers who were coming in, the migrants.
Yeah.
Mexican Americans or Mexicans. They weren't Americans. They were just
they're Mexicans.
Mexican migrants. And so
this was still during the what is it called? The Bracero.
Bracero, yeah.
The Armas.
Right.
Yeah, Bracero programs.
But Itliong knew that if he can get to Chavez and corral these Mexican migrants into a force, then the Filipinos, who were already in their 50s and 60s and older, right? Because they came in the 20s and 30s, And in 1965, they were still mounting this strike. If they could get the Mexican migrants, they could turn this around and they could win. And it was Itliong who convinced Chavez to join. And September 15th, Chavez joined, and the United Farm Workers.
That's how it was formed, UFW.
That's how it happened. And it was Itliong. Itliong became the vice president. He let Chavez be the president. But Itliong was the hardcore striker, and Chavez was the guy who'd rather lead a rosary. He was, very religious. One of the big things he did was a march, right? The march to Sacramento.
Right.
And with a virgin, someone held up a Virgin Mary, and they marched to Sacramento. I mean, very devout man. Don't want to knock his spirituality, but in some ways, that's what attracted people like Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy. The Robert Kennedy, right?
Senior,
the Robert Kennedy to the farm
well,
workers.
he got the movie stars.
Yeah.
He got, Jerry Brown.
Yeah, and the thing about what happened was they saw, Chavez had a kind of charisma, although he wasn't great, in terms of being a
speaker. He wasn't a firebrand.
Yeah, and he wasn't a labor leader, but he was a charismatic spiritual guy. And
when he did his starvation run.
Oh yeah, the hunger strike. Yeah,
when he did his hunger strike, that was a big deal. That went international.
Yeah, and it mixed. That thing just mixed civil rights, human rights, labor rights, everything in one.
He put the whole movement on the front and forced the big unions to pay attention.
Yeah, but the big unions also knew that this is why they offered such big money to Itliong.
That's right.
They needed him to make sure that Chavez didn't go off the deep end and was still a union. So in many ways, it was a perfect kind of marriage between, Itliong, union guy, Chavez, charismatic spiritualist, and they did. I mean, Larry was there till like 71, 6 years, but then he left, and then it was a Chavez, and
he left pissed too.
Yeah, he was upset. Yeah, but like I said, there were still some Filipinos like Philip Veracruz, Pete Velasco, were still there. Chavez's lieutenants, but it was Larry Itliong who got overlooked, and for being there at the beginning. So, all right, so I'm going as Larry Itliong for Halloween, and so if I knock on your door and I don't get vegan candy,
candy,
you can expect the 50,000, 50 million.
Give me 50 million. Should have asked Imelda. She would have been good for it.
Yeah. All right. So one last thing, you're going to some encyclopedia Filipinos.
The encyclopedia was actually released, and available via Amazon and your local library, bookstore, last November. But there was never a premiere opening of it on the West Coast. I think they did something on the East Coast, but they didn't do a West Coast. Oh. So there's a West Coast summit made primarily of the contributors, people who wrote articles for the encyclopedia.
Oh, I remember one. I was in the journalism one, and they got my name wrong.
That's right. They misspelled it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got my name
so
wrong.
You got to change your gender.
Yeah. Oh well, that's the way it works.
Yeah.
Anyway,
you could have clarified it with pronouns.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Him, her, it.
My humble encyclopedia entry would be first Filipino American to host a national news show in 1989. So it's in the 80s. So that's a long time ago.
That's right.
You're a pioneer. That's right. Covered wagon parked outside next to the Maserati. So
that's what you call your horse, right?
My horse, my Italian horse.
Yeah. Well, the Ferrari has got the horse insignia, but
That's right.
The Maserati's got the Trident.
That's right. The
That's
tri.
all you got to do is look in my garage downstairs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you got all the little hood ornaments on the wall.
Well, there's actually motors attached to them, but it's cool.
So
My
the Fer-
wife's chronic complaint is, when are you going to get this thing running? Just get
ah,
rid of it. Just
that's the thing. They're so expensive. You know, I went to my high school reunion, and this one guy who was there. I sold my '64 Mustang to him, but it was all burnt out. So I sold it to him for like $50, something like that.
whoa.
I mean, it was all
What
burnt
year did you
out.
sell it to him?
72, 70, 71.
Okay, all right.
Like, you know, it was an older car, used car. So it was a 64. He took that car, cherried it out, rode it for the next 20 years.
Right on.
Yeah. And all because I had an electrical fire on 280.
Oh, yeah, it was still new. 280. We finished it, I think, when in my senior year of high school, so 66.
Yeah.
We finished it.
It was, yeah. And you take that road up around, you really hug the mountain.
Right.
Remember that?
Skyline.
It was really kind of treacherous in a way.
Skyline Drive was one, and that was on the crest.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Highway 1, which goes right along the shore.
Okay, so you know this was a little bit. No, I guess around the same time. The regular part of 280
Right.
and around Burlingame is where
Right.
I got a fire, and then there was my car, and but my friend was there to buy it for me for $50. He put in, he rewired it, and made it run.
Right on.
Story of my life. So anyway, all right. So Dan, that's it. I think
Right on.
we're done.
We good, bro.
Have a good time at the
Yeah,
encyclopedia.
it's what I'm looking forward to is seeing a lot of the contributors. A lot of the contributors, maybe even 40 or 50% of them, were my former students.
Good.
Who have gone on to establish careers in education in their own right. So, thanks to Allison Tintianco Cabales, right? And
pat yourself on the back.
well, it's not me. It's a lot of people,
Yeah.
including the students themselves. They were inspired by us a little bit, and they were organized by Allison Tintianco Cabales and her husband Val, and people who have been the mayor of Daly City and taken turns being mayor of Daly City. Everybody except his wife, Rod Dawes Manbual, was more recently, as well as a couple other folks. That's what I always say when they show the whole board, right, of the council of Daly City. I go, there you go. It's like 3.5 Filipinos on that freaking board, man.
That's good. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, it is.
I was there the other day when I went to Goldilocks, and my one regret is that no, it's not really a regret, but I just didn't go to Daly City. I just when I thought and I should have considered.
You mean you didn't go to the
Right,
city center? You know, what I mean the political center, like City Hall.
No, well, I didn't go there to live. In which case,
That's what you meant. I thought you meant just to visit that day, because the Goldilocks that you went to, there's two of them in Daly City. So
I know, but I think that I should have considered at some point moving there or living there, but I don't know.
ang daming Pinoy.
I did not. Yeah,
Dito.
actually,
Ang daming Pinoy.
Vallejo would have been good.
Yeah, Vallejo was less expensive, and the west side was more livable, I think, than the east side. The east side was really not in good shape. It has gotten somewhat gentrified now.
Well, that's the thing about Vallejo. It had trouble, and then I met someone the other day who was in Union City. That's a big Filipino town.
Yep.
Union City,
and right across the highway is Pinoyal.
Pinoyal.
Yeah, that's what I call it. I call it Pinoyal.
Pinoyal. Pinoy. Yes, I have relatives in Pinoy.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So Dan, good luck. I'll talk to you again soon. We'll schedule that lunch soon.
Yeah, we'll get some brunch or something going.
We'll get there. All right. There he
All right.
goes.
Regards
Daniel.
to the family,
Yeah. Same here. Say
hugs
hi.
to the spouse, and now happy belated birthday. You know, we all had birthdays. We're all Libras.
I know, and we were gonna do it again this year. We're
Yeah,
gonna
the four of us are all Libras.
we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it.
I have a neighbor
Maybe,
that's a Libra Scorpio.
yeah. Maybe next. Yeah. Well, I'll email you.
Yeah, give me just give me a schedule when you're going to be away. Towards the EB or towards San Francisco or San Mateo, because there's a
Yeah.
lot of choices.
Okay. All right. All
We're
right.
in, we're in foodie country, man.
Oh, I know. I know. All right.
I
There
don't
he goes. Daniel Phil Gonzales, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies Professor Emeritus, Asian American Studies, Filipino American Studies. How many studies can you have? Apparently unlimited. All right, that was our show for today. Hope you enjoyed it. I mean, the way to listen to it. I mean, well, you've already listened to it, but you need to tell your friends. I've heard them talk, and they just talk. Well, it's just like a radio show, people talk, and it's two Filipino guys. And that's Monday through Friday. We'll replay this on the weekend on YouTube at Emil Amok 1, Facebook at fb.com/EmilGuillermo.media, Twitter or X, formerly known as Twitter, at Emil Amok, EMIL AMOK. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to be Larry Itliong for Halloween. So if you see, I don't know if I'll get the crew cut. I don't know if I have the mustache. If I can get black horn rim glasses, I'll get them. Now, these are red ones. But I will have the cigar and the seven fingers. My seven finger Larry. Honoring Larry Itliong. Check out my column on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. That's it for me. Emil Guillermo here. Oh, we'd like to close with a little loving kindness. A little loving kindness goes a long way. Metta, METTA. Yeah. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita.